Lily Everett was forced into marriage with the Valentino family, an age-old rival, by her cruel father for his own gain. As a result, she couldn't avoid being hated to the core by her husband. Lily admitted that she despised her husband and resented him for pushing her away. However, she did not wish death upon him. She could not deny that she wanted him to be happy and did not want to see him suffer. Watching her husband fall into danger, all her resentment was washed away by tears. Sadness swallowed everything, leaving only pure emotions that could not fade. This was the love that Lily had buried deep in her heart. Lily recalled her first meeting with Theodore, her current husband, which was 2 years ago. It all started with her father announcing that she would be married off to the Valentino family. Lily was shocked and thought to herself, "Is he insane?" Then she dismissed the thought, realizing that he had lost his humanity long ago. The Valentino family, a duchy, had protected the northern part of the Franciscan kingdom since its inception. Through generations, the head of the family had made a pact with a powerful spirit. Over a decade ago, their territory was shaken by cracks. Because of these cracks, the family lost their next heir, Camille Valentino. Now, Camille's younger brother, Theodore, would be the next heir. Due to the controlling force of the Valentinos, he was completely isolated, requiring assistance from another family. Lily's father did not hide the fact that through their marriage, the Valentinos would receive financial support from the Everetts. He wanted to take this opportunity to seize the Valentino estate. Lily showed no reaction and went back to start her bridal classes. On her way, she met her brother, Owen Everett, along with Lord Lennon. Her brother simply expressed his hope that this time she would be useful to the Everett family. Lily knew that within this family, she was just a possession and a tool, nothing more. She had known for a long time that Lady Everett had passed away. Besides his 2 sons, Duke Everett needed a daughter to trade with other families. Because he didn't want to spend money on unnecessary things, he chose a child with a pleasing appearance from the children of the servants. After her encounter with her brother, Lily returned to her room. She wondered when she would be able to escape this hell. She guessed that her marriage to Theodore would never be happy. The Everetts had always used every trick in the book to gain power and wealth, while the Valentinos were a family that upheld justice and morality. Because of this, the 2 families had been at odds for a long time, with countless bloodshed and corpses piling up. Despite knowing this, Lily couldn't stop hoping that someone would reach out and pull her out of this dark hell. After learning that she would marry Theodore, Lily became curious about him. She had never had the chance to attend balls before, so she never had the opportunity to meet him in person. She wondered if he was as handsome and cold as people said. Lily put on a beautiful dress and planned to leave her home. Hasson, another half-brother of Lily, shouted angrily, "Are you mad? Why are you dressed like this? Do you think your face will catch that bastard's eye?" It was then that Lily understood why her father had paid so much attention to her outfit today. Instead of showing dissatisfaction, Lily smiled brightly and asked her brother, "Are you jealous? You're even staring." Hasson shouted again, telling her to stop speaking nonsense and to go back to her room and change. Lily walked past Hasson and said, "If you don't like it, go and convince father." As she stepped out of the mansion, Lily remembered her father's words that the other man would be tempted by her face. While she was still deep in thought, Lily actually encountered Theodore, the man she was to marry. He was with another person, hurrying to the Norpad base. When he reached Lily, he asked if she didn't feel cold, then draped his own coat over her shoulders. Before leaving, he reminded her that her outfit was not suitable for a walk. Back home, Lily once again ran into Hasson, who congratulated her on the Duke accepting the marriage proposal. He sarcastically remarked that it seemed like her and their father's strategy had succeeded. Lily thought that Theodore had no other choice under her father's pressure. Hasson said he felt sorry for that bastard, having to marry someone like her for the sake of his territory. He laughed loudly, wondering if Theodore would follow her father's wishes. Hasson gloomily asserted that once the situation stabilized, that bastard would surely kick her out. He stood up from his chair and asked Lily why she didn't beg him. He went crazy, continuously yelling at her to beg him, to ask him to save her. Owen stepped in to stop his brother and ordered Hasson to leave. Hasson refused, wanting to hear what his brother had to say to this fox. Owen, face pale with anger, warned his brother to speak kindly, then forcefully pushed him outside. Owen sat down where Hasson had been sitting and said he didn't expect much from her, only that she tried to seduce Theodore. Her role was crucial in making the Everett family complete. Owen calmly reminded her that even if she married that bastard, she would still belong to him. Lily Everett would remain a member of the Everett family until she died. In this era, noble marriages were transactions and contracts. The Duke of Valentino had once planned an arranged marriage with the Albanese, but he fell in love with the eldest daughter of Viscount Han-my-Han's family and married her instead. As a result, the fortune Valentino gained from that marriage was very small, weakening their military power. Hence, they had to expand their power through arranged marriages. They couldn't avoid being very different from other families. At that time, their family even faced a crisis of existence. Hasson smirked and told Lily that ultimately, she was lucky. If the Valentino finances hadn't collapsed as they had, she would never have had the chance to marry Theodore. Lily calmly replied that she knew. She approached her brother and asked if he didn't know. Even if she had to die, she would never ask him for help. Lily lamented that she was sick of it all and wished both her brothers were dead. She walked into the chapel, guided by her father. Lily thought to herself that her father must be overjoyed to have sold her at such a high price. The scene of flowers blessing them flew everywhere, and she felt like all of this was like a play, utterly ridiculous. Suddenly, she wondered if Theodore felt the same way. Under the sacred union granted by God, Theodore and Lily officially became husband and wife. Before they met again at this wedding, Lily had washed and returned Theodore's coat to him. However, the dupe responded that the coat was no longer his, and she could tear or burn it as she pleased. Upon hearing this, Lily felt nothing strange. To Theodore now, she was simply the daughter of the hated Everett family. She had no right to resent or hate him for this. Lily told herself that she must keep her distance from Theodore, not allowing herself to like him. Strangely, Lily felt her heart unconsciously beat faster when she saw Theodore in the garden that day. She reassured herself that it was just a fleeting moment of excitement. Regarding Lily and Theodore's first wedding night, she had no expectations for their relationship. But Theodore surprised her once again by using scissors to cut his hand rather than touching her. Theodore said that Lily didn't need to force herself into a relationship she didn't want. He could do everything she desired but would not sit idly by if this marriage lost its meaning. Theodore said that when that time came, they would proceed with a quick divorce. Until then, they were only husband and wife in name. He emphasized that she should not forget that this marriage could end at any time. Lily thought perhaps her misfortune was not just about being forced into this marriage. A few days later, they set off back to the Valentino mansion. On the way, Lily saw for the first time the harsh lives of the people along the road. Lily couldn't hold back her emotions and nearly cried out loud. Charlotte, the only maid who accompanied her, worriedly asked if she was all right. Theodore heard the commotion inside the carriage and quickly lifted the curtain to see. Seeing Lily, he sneered, saying that this sight might offend the noble Everett. He told her that it wouldn't be long before they reached the city center, and if she could, she should avoid looking out the window anymore. As her emotions subsided, Lily felt grateful that Charlotte was still with her. In that dark, cold mansion, no one else wanted to accompany Lily. Looking back at her path, Lily saw it as a thorny road. She now regretted bringing the young girl along. Charlotte whispered, guessing that the Duke was concerned about the Duchess. When he noticed the noise inside the carriage, he quickly checked. The carriage soon stopped in front of the Valentino castle. Lady Seymour came out to welcome them. Lily politely thanked her, hoping for future care and guidance. After entering the castle, Theodore left Lily and departed. She was led by a servant to the ladies' quarters. Lily knew that from now on, it would be difficult for them to harmonize like other couples. She wondered where her life had gone wrong. Ultimately, she had no other choice but to live like she was already dead in this house. She thought she shouldn't strive for anything anymore, nor should she hope or expect anything. Even if some emotions were rising, she had to suppress them. For several days in the castle, Theodore did not glance at her even once. Lily wondered if she was that repulsive. At a banquet held later to mark Everett's presence, Theodore asked for the first time if the food didn't suit her taste. But then he quickly added that he hoped she wouldn't call him intimately in the future because he didn't intend to continue this marriage until death. Theodore guessed she felt the same way. Since they were both unwanted partners, he hoped to avoid unnecessary emotions. Although deeply uncomfortable, Lily responded that she understood. Seeing the lady's poor mood, Charlotte escorted her back to her room. The young girl even prepared a bath for her. Looking at Charlotte's hands stained with dry blood, Lily felt heartbroken and asked if they were mistreating her. Charlotte, knowing Lily had noticed, hurriedly reassured her that she was fine and that she was very strong. Lily knew what the young girl was worried about. After all, the mansion was full of people who disliked her. If she caused trouble, they would hate her even more. Seeing her mistress's sadness, Charlotte apologized. Lily was surprised and asked why she was apologizing. If anyone should apologize, it should be her. Charlotte quietly said that because she was an orphan, she had no one else. Lily suddenly asked if she wanted to return to the Everett mansion. Charlotte, confused, asked why the mistress would say such a thing. The young girl truly only wanted to stay by the mistress's side. Returning there, no one would welcome her. After hearing her words, Lily realized that just as she found solace in having Charlotte by her side, the young girl also found comfort in her. It was like two wounded animals silently healing each other. Lily sought out the steward and summoned 2 maidservants and 3 female servants to join her personal maid. Although somewhat surprised, the steward followed the lady's orders. Facing Laura, Lily directly asked why she hadn't properly helped Charlotte. She scolded her, saying it was a dereliction of duty. Bullying her maid was childish and shameless. Laura apologized, saying they had too much work and no other choice. Moreover, the conditions at Valentino Castle were not good, so the servants were always busy, with one person often having to do the work of 2. Lily realized this maid was indirectly trying to teach her a lesson. Regardless of her birth family, she was now the lady of Valentino and the mistress of this castle. Currently, a servant was disregarding basic etiquette towards her mistress. Lily, angry, asked if, as the mistress of the castle, she had the right to be taught a lesson by her servant. Seymour asked what the commotion was about. Upon hearing from the steward, she stood in front of Laura and asked if she had been busy lately. Despite that, they still had to fulfill their duties. She hoped they would do better next time. Seymour turned to Lily, asking her not to be angry anymore. She added that if it were her command, the servants would be obedient and not cause trouble. Lily understood. According to Seymour's words, she was the one in control of this house. Lily bowed and said that if they helped Charlotte, she would have no reason to cause trouble. Seymour, using the pretext of familiarizing Lily with the situation, suggested she go outside to inspect the territory. This time, she intended to humiliate Lily. Even though she wanted to give up everything and be freed, Lily still gently accepted the task given to her. Theodore, standing outside the window, saw everything that happened. Lily had predicted the living conditions of the people outside, but they were truly horrific. Knowing this, she intentionally wore the simplest outfit. While distributing food, a woman rushed over and attacked Lily, shouting at her to die and calling her a witch with dirty Everett blood. Fortunately, a knight accompanying her pulled the woman away. Lily was stunned. Everyone blamed her, even though she had done nothing but come here to distribute food, just because she was the daughter of Duke Everett. In reality, that man wasn't even her biological father. However, the people's eyes showed that they did not welcome her. After returning to the castle, Lily thought that even if she actively helped them now, they would still see her as a hypocrite. But she couldn't just sit and do nothing. Lily came up with the idea of selling some of the jewelry she had brought with her when she first got married. Her father had given them to her as wedding gifts, but she thought he didn't care about these jewels. These were valuable pieces of jewelry that could bring in a good amount of gold. Lily considered giving this money to the local officials to manage the territory, but she worried that people would criticize her for not knowing her place and acting like a hypocrite. Moreover, selling jewelry less than a week after being married would be seen as disrespecting the Duke's house. Lily found a magical accessory that Owen had given her. Her brother had once told her to use it whenever she secretly investigated the Valentino family. This accessory would allow her to change her appearance according to her thoughts. She didn't expect that madmen's tricks to be so useful. With this, Lily could transform into a commoner or a knight to distribute food. Lily thought this was a brilliant plan. However, she didn't expect Theodore to find out about this easily. She cursed the damned merchant, thinking she'd have paid him enough to keep his mouth shut. Lily had to come up with an excuse, saying she wanted to exchange some old jewelry for new ones. Theodore responded that she didn't need to make money by selling jewelry. They might be struggling financially, but they were still the Duke of the North. Lily could only apologize and promise to be more careful next time. During their conversation, Lily noticed that Theodore looked very pale. She had heard that the contracted spirit didn't suit him well. Theodore stood up from his chair and then suddenly stopped. He said that her decision to sell the jewelry to deal with the shock of seeing the people's condition proved that she was indeed the daughter of the Everett family. He wanted her to rest and assured her that he wouldn't let her see those unpleasant scenes anymore. Because of this, Lily couldn't sleep that night. She decided to go for a walk outside without waking Charlotte. Unexpectedly, she met Theodore in the garden and, even more surprisingly, saw him crying and calling out his brother's name. Theodore, noticing her presence, was initially angry but then escorted her back to her room himself. He told Lily not to wander around alone late at night. Watching Theodore's back as he walked away, Lily thought he never cared about her at all. Despite knowing it was crazy, she just wanted to talk to him for a bit longer. The entire night, Lily couldn't sleep at all. Her mind was filled with the image of Theodore's tear-streaked face. The next morning, the merchant arrived as scheduled. Lily was still angry that she had asked him to keep a secret, but he had told the Duke instead. Clearly, anyone could see that their marriage was only in name. The merchant brought out a necklace with a blue flower pendant. Lily knew it suited her well, but she wanted to refuse it to use the money to help the people. As soon as she said she didn't like it, Theodore stepped in and wanted to buy it. After the merchant left, Theodore deliberately asked if the daughter of Everett thought the necklace was beautiful. He approached her and told her to wear it, saying it would be a modest gift from him. He didn't want to be accused of disrespecting the daughter of the noble Everett family. Lily could clearly see that Theodore was intentionally emphasizing that she was indeed the daughter of the noble Everett family. Lily wondered how Theodore would react if he knew she wasn't of Everett blood. Moreover, if she was no longer a noble's daughter, would he despise her even more? That same day, Lady Seymour summoned Lily. She mentioned that the next day would be the anniversary of Theodore's brother's death. Even though Lily knew why Camille died, Lady Seymour slowly recounted Camille's life as if telling a story. Her sister and brother-in-law had lost their lives in a sudden crack, and later Camille also died because of another crack. Seymour always held deep affection for them, she hinted, wondering why such unexpected deaths occurred. Lily understood that she was implying the Everett family might have had a hand in it. If that were true, then the Everett family had been manipulating the cracks for a long time. However, Lily had never heard of such a thing. Seymour suddenly shifted the topic to Theodore. He was a kind-hearted and forgiving child, loved by many. Theodore also had deep affection for his brother, so when he heard of his brother's death, he lost half of his memory. As the anniversary of Camille's death approached, Theodore became even more sorrowful. Seymour's words were nothing short of a warning. Lily knew she couldn't interfere and remembered her place. However, it was not easy for her to see Theodore in such pain and not be able to do anything about it. She tried to force herself not to think about this anymore. She thought she would eventually be poisoned or divorced. If her current emotions had a voice and started speaking, she would become even more miserable. Coincidentally, the next day, a girl named Adeline Albanese came to find Theodore. She smiled at Lily, saying they might have met before. Lily replied that she must be Albanese's daughter, and that she had heard a lot about her, truly honored to meet her. Adeline naturally walked over and linked arms with Theodore, saying they had been childhood friends and were very close. Adeline had once talked about marrying Theodore, but rumors had it that their engagement was broken due to the strong opposition of Duke Albanese. Lily guessed that once she got divorced, Adeline would surely marry Theodore. Lily could only say that Adeline was a lucky woman. Seeing Lily's pale face, Adeline approached and asked if she was all right. Lily told them to continue their conversation and then left first. Returning to her room, Lily wondered if she had replaced Adeline's place. Adeline could comfort Theodore in ways she never could. Charlotte noticed that the mistress wasn't feeling well and asked if she wanted to rest early. The young girl brought some lavender to help her sleep better. Once again that night, Lily couldn't sleep despite the lavender that Charlotte had so thoughtfully prepared. She got out of bed, searched for some sleeping pills, and took them. In her restless sleep, Lily knew she was about to enter another dream. She thought if it were a nightmare about Owen or Hasson, she would simply destroy it. but she didn't expect Theodore to be the one in her nightmare. Lily cried out in pain, wondering why, out of everything in the world, she dreamt about him. She woke up from the dream to see Theodore entering her room. She stood up and reminded the Duke that he was in the wrong room. But Theodore, seemingly too drunk, didn't hear her. She helped him sit down on a chair. He said he might really have lost his memory to end up here again. Lily wanted to stop her tears, but for some strange reason, she felt like crying every time she saw him. Her heart ached indescribably and was beating so hard that she wished it would stop. Since seeing him at the Everett castle, she had felt a growing anxiety inside her, because she knew it would hurt and make life more miserable. It was terrifying when someone started to become special to Theodore. Lily didn't think she could endure that. This was a feeling that Theodore could never reciprocate. Theodore suddenly woke up and pushed Lily away. He whispered that he must have lost his memory. This was just a mistake. He told her that he wouldn't let this happen again. As Theodore was leaving, Lily mustered all her courage, grabbed his hand, and pleaded, "Please don't go, please don't go." Honestly, she wasn't even the Duke Everett's child. She had no relation to those monsters at all. Lily said she wouldn't mind at all if he came to see her again. Theodore, surprised, asked if she thought she could fool him. Lily, bewildered, asked what he meant. He said, "Is this a trick you have practiced beforehand? It's a pity that it doesn't work." Theodore told her to stop pretending. He knew she was following her father and brother's orders to seduce him. He suddenly recalled the day he saw her in the Everett garden, saying that she had tried to catch his eye. He asked what explanation she had for saying that wasn't her original intention. Lily screamed that it wasn't true. Theodore laughed, saying she still managed to deceive him even though he'd have brought everything to light. He asked how she felt about trying to seduce a man she didn't even like. Lily shouted that she didn't do that and would never seduce him. Lily thought it would be better if she were a monster like her father. If she were a monster, she wouldn't be able to love anyone. After Theodore left, she collapsed to the ground, crying out, "Why? Why is this happening to me?" From that day on, Theodore's attitude toward her became colder and more strained. Lily intentionally sought him out to tell him she was different from her father and brother. She would never harm the Valentino family. She wanted to help him and his family instead. Theodore responded that he was wondering what she would say. If she was trying to deceive him, she should at least make it convincing. He sarcastically remarked that her face looked very sincere. During this time, Theodore frequently went to the front lines to close the cracks in their territory. At the same time, a feeling of defeat gradually arose in Lily. Before long, she was excluded from all family events. But the only person who could hurt her was Theodore. Once, she wanted to restore the abandoned greenhouse in the garden to make a pharmacy for the people. Theodore warned her not to do things that didn't concern her. He emphasized that she was not the Duchess but just Lily Everett. Theodore even bluntly abandoned her at a banquet. Lily lost all hope from that point on. She knew that no matter what happened, Theodore would never protect her. Other dukes were waiting for Theodore to divorce Lily so they could buy her, and she was well aware of it. Things continued this way for a year and a half until Theodore suffered a severe head injury. Lily rushed over to check on him. An elderly woman informed her that Theodore had a serious head injury but was now stable. Fortunately, her husband had a unique healing ability. Lily thought her worries were unfounded. Even so, it was better for Theodore to rest, so she quickly decided to leave. The elderly woman was surprised when Lily prepared to leave. Lily explained that Theodore would recover better without her presence. Unexpectedly, Theodore woke up at that moment, staring at her without saying anything. Lily, worried, thought she should leave before he said something. She bowed and apologized for disturbing his rest. To her surprise, Theodore asked, "Who are you?" Lily wondered if she'd have finally gone mad. After all, she was still his wife, wasn't she? The elderly woman approached and explained to the Duke that Lily was his wife and that they had been married for a year. Theodore, holding his head, said he couldn't remember anything. The elderly woman could only conclude that the Duke had temporary amnesia. Fortunately, apart from matters concerning Lily, he remembered everything important. Theodore looked at his wife and asked, "Can you come closer?" Learning her name was Lily, he even complimented it as a cute name. Lily asked if he really couldn't remember anything. She suggested that he could learn about her through others' words, which would also help him know how to treat her. Lily whispered that she wanted to leave and begged him to let her go. Theodore grabbed her hand and asked her not to leave. He asked if he had done something wrong. She shouted that she felt truly ashamed and begged him not to ask her to explain anything. Despite Theodore repeatedly requesting to see her, Lily consistently refused. Charlotte once again went to apologize to the Duke because the mistress did not want to meet him. He closed the book in his hand, remembering the steward's words that he had indeed married Lily, but it was for the Everett family. This marriage was nothing more than a transaction between the two houses. Theodore could vaguely recall that he had visited the Everett house 2 years ago. He was sure he had met someone in the garden but couldn't remember who it was. Theodore wondered why his memories of her had completely vanished. He turned to Charlotte and ordered her to take him to the mistress's room immediately. When they reached Lily's room, he was informed that she had just gone outside. Theodore was surprised that his wife had gone out without an escort. He angrily asked the servant at the door if no one wanted to accompany the mistress, even though she was the lady of the Valentino family. Theodore fumed, saying he would have to investigate this further. Hearing from Charlotte that the mistress often took walks by the river, but that today she truly didn't know where she had gone, he began to suspect they were hiding something from him. Regardless of what it was, he would try to uncover it. Charlotte was startled to see Theodore enter the mistress's room without her permission. Theodore could do anything without hesitation, yet he was usually kind to his people. The only exception to this kindness was the mistress. Theodore found a large medicine box in Lily's room and asked Charlotte what it was. Meanwhile, outside the castle, Lily was distributing food to the people, unaware of what was happening inside. Everyone praised her as a kind-hearted person. They often told her that the power of the Lord was growing stronger every day, and thus the monsters from the cracks no longer attacked. More precisely, the Seraphine region had recognized Theodore as its new master, so his power had become more stable. At this time, Theodore could handle the cracks on his own. The Valentino family no longer needed assistance from the Everetts. Lily thought this was a good thing, as it meant he would soon be able to divorce her. Whether Theodore had lost his memory or not, their positions remained unchanged. Just as she was about to leave the area, she heard Hasson shouting loudly nearby. Lily wondered why Hasson was here. He often took his men to spy on the Veronese territory, but had never acted violently like this. She grabbed the hand of a passerby and asked what was happening. There had been a shift in how the people of Veronese insulted the Everett family. Previously it was pure hatred, but then there were many mocking and ridiculing Everett, and hot-tempered Hasson, of course, couldn't tolerate those insults. He gave the person a choice: cut their tongue or cut their throat. The people around screamed, asking what right he had to punish them, insisting they had done nothing wrong. Seeing that Hasson was about to act, Lily thought she couldn't just stand by and watch. She introduced herself to Hasson as Leah, a maid working at the Valentino Duke's castle. She explained at length that from the beginning, the people here lacked education. Above all, they had been hurt by the attacks of mystical creatures, so their minds were no longer clear. They had lost their sanity and spoke thoughtlessly because of the pain in their hearts. She sincerely asked him to find forgiveness and compassion for these people. Hasson grabbed Lily from the ground and asked if she knew what she was doing. Was this her new hobby? Lily thought the magic disguise device should work flawlessly. He dragged her to a secluded place and reminded her that she was the Duke's wife. As they were still struggling, Theodore suddenly appeared from somewhere. He pulled Lily behind him and asked Hasson what he thought he was doing. Hasson asked since when the Duke cared about this forsaken woman. Theodore corrected him, asking why he called his wife a forsaken one. Hasson, furious, pointed to his head and asked if Theodore had lost his mind or had just been hit in the head. He reminded Theodore that the woman in front of them was Lily Everett, the person he hated the most. Lily thought it wouldn't be good if Theodore admitted he had lost his memory. She was sure her father and brother would use violence against Theodore. Lily told her brother that the Duke was just playing a game, and he didn't need to take it seriously. Theodore looked worriedly at his wife, asking, "How could you say such a thing?" Lily realized she had no other choice and forced herself to stop breathing, fainting in the process. If she didn't, it wouldn't benefit Theodore at all. Lily felt like she was sinking into a heavy abyss and couldn't sleep. When she woke up, she was lying in her bed, with Charlotte anxiously beside her. The first thing Lily thought was that it had worked. They had managed to escape from Hasson. Theodore approached and sat down on Lily's bed, asking how she felt. He had been terrified when she suddenly stopped breathing. Theodore informed her that a doctor would come to check on her, and she shouldn't miss any appointments. She responded that she understood and then asked about Hasson. Theodore told her that Hasson had returned to his place in Salisbury and confirmed he was no longer in Varennes. Lily found it very strange. Why was he living separately? He had once been extremely proud of being a member of the Everett family. Hasson had shown his loyalty by having no personal assets and only a few knights following him. Lily guessed that the reason Hasson had his own place was due to not getting along with the family. Seeing the worried look in Theodore's eyes, Lily told him not to worry about what had happened with Hasson, saying it was just her brother's mischievous nature. She then found an excuse to politely send Theodore away. Before leaving, he reluctantly asked if she could call him by his name next time they met. Lily thought to herself about his name, remembering how she had called out to him in desperation, and sometimes with hope, but it never made any difference. The Duke would soon learn to be indifferent to his wife again. Lily viewed Theodore's memory loss as a brief ray of sunshine on a rainy day. Theodore, upon returning, recalled what happened after Lily fainted. Hasson had angrily cursed, saying that the bitch was playing this trick again. He reminded Theodore to be wary, saying Lily's fainting was intentional. However, he then added that it was probably not a big deal since they would soon divorce anyway. Theodore looked at him in confusion, asking what he meant. Hasson asked why he was so surprised. Wasn't his plan to divorce her when the time was right? Did he really intend to live with an Everett woman forever? Hasson continued, saying that after the divorce, Lily would remarry Lennon, describing it as a truly unfortunate life. Looking at Lily's bottle of medicine on the table, Theodore wondered what he had done to make everything turn out this way. He summoned Calvin, his close confidant, to ask about the issues regarding Lily that he had forgotten. He wanted Calvin to tell him how things were between him and his wife before he lost his memory and how he had treated her. Calvin was surprised, asking why Theodore was only now calling him to ask. He had heard that Theodore had been asking everyone in the castle about it. Theodore responded that he wanted Calvin to be the last one to provide an answer. Calvin evasively replied that, in fact, his treatment of Lily was reasonable if she were considered a member of the Valentino family. But Lily's life was quite the opposite. However, Calvin still thought he wasn't a bad person because she was, after all, the daughter of the Everett family. The stories Theodore had told Calvin were quite vague, better left until his memory returned. Calvin kindly reminded him not to get too close to Lily, warning that he might regret it later. Theodore told Calvin he still wanted to know his opinion, and then he would make his own decision. Calvin pondered, saying that the first time they met was 2 years ago at the Everett castle. Calvin didn't hesitate to tell Theodore about the servants frequently leaving dead birds and mice near Lily's door. Theodore thought to himself that Lily had endured such rumors because of him. She bore it without complaint. 2 years was a long time for Lily to endure such torment. Theodore always wanted to ask himself why he was so harsh with her before losing his memory, even though he had been attracted to her from the first glance. Even Calvin couldn't believe he could fall in love with a girl at first sight. Theodore was quite sure he had recognized his feelings long ago. After realizing those feelings, he must have planned to get her out of the Everett family, but he couldn't understand why he had treated her so cruelly and distantly. Theodore tried to think of the reason. Had someone intervened, or was there some misunderstanding? While he was still debating whether to enter Lily's room, Seymour appeared. She said she heard Lily had fainted, so she came to check on the girl. Guessing that Lily was probably asleep, she thought this might not be the right time. Theodore walked alongside her back to his office. Seymour asked if Theodore still hadn't regained his memory. She said that it wasn't an important memory, so he shouldn't force himself. She expressed her concern, advising him to continue living with Lily as he had before. Anyway, she would soon leave this family. After she left, Theodore wondered why she would leave. On the other side, Hasson, upon returning home, was immediately questioned by his brother about the situation. Knowing that Theodore was now practically a fool, Hasson secretly thought that one day he would make Theodore kneel before him. Once Lily had fully recovered, Theodore sat down and asked her about that day. Why was she dressed as a maid? That day, the villagers had warned him that one of the Everett family's sons had caught a maid from the Valentino castle. They also told him that the maid's name was Leah, who occasionally came to distribute food and supplies. Theodore hoped Lily would be honest with him. He asked if she had been pretending to be a maid to help the villagers all this time. Lily thought she didn't want to take credit for that. She was also curious about Theodore's reaction when he found out she had done that. She wondered if he would be moved knowing she did it. Honestly, she wouldn't be happy to see him moved. Lily simply replied that it was a hobby. When she felt bored, she would go down and distribute things the people needed. Theodore then took out the bottle of medicine from her room. He had someone check it, and it was a sleeping pill, but it was made from a highly potent herb, so daily use would harm her health. Theodore couldn't believe it and asked Lily if she really used this medicine every day. Lily honestly said she couldn't sleep, so she used that medicine. For some reason, Theodore was furious and used magic to burn the bottle. He bent down and told her never to do this again in the future. Lily told him that she had taken 2 pills the previous night before bed. Perhaps her body had built a tolerance, so she had increased the dosage. This time, Theodore, agitated, went to Lily's room and destroyed all her medication by burning it. He shouted that it was poison and that prolonged use would shorten her lifespan. He couldn't believe that Lily knew about its side effects but still used it. Theodore sat patiently next to Lily and said he knew that before losing his memory, he had treated her cruelly. He also knew that they couldn't pretend those things hadn't happened, but he wanted to mend their relationship in the future, and he would try to make that happen. Lily softly asked what he thought they could do to mend it. Then she let the cup in her hand drop and shatter. Looking at the broken pieces and her blood-stained hand, Lily asked how they could mend something that had shattered into pieces. Theodore didn't pay attention to her words but instead focused on her bloodied hands. A doctor was called immediately after. Lily cried loudly, telling him it was best if he left. Charlotte, knowing about the sleeping pills, asked what the mistress planned to do. Lily responded that it was probably time for her to stop using them. The young girl was overjoyed, having long wanted the mistress to stop because the pills were toxic and bad for her health. Lily smiled at Charlotte, saying she was right and that from tonight, she would try using scented candles to sleep. While they were still talking, the doctor that the Duke had specially arranged for the mistress arrived. The doctor said she had been requested by the Duke to take care of the mistress's health. Lily wondered if the doctor would be dismissed once Theodore regained his memory. Jane stated her intention to eliminate the mistress's harmful sleeping pills. Instead, she would prepare an herbal blend to help her sleep without harming her health. After examining Lily, Jane's expression was very grim. The mistress's health was in a terrible state. Her immune system was weakened, and her blood circulation was unstable. Simply put, her health was akin to that of an elderly person. Looking at Lily for a moment, she added that with proper care, her health could improve. After seeing Jane off, Lily wanted to change her mood, so she went to the library with Charlotte. She picked out a book for Charlotte and sat down beside her. Charlotte could read the book. Lily had heard that Charlotte had grown up in a convent and learned to read from the monks there. However, a maid who was an orphan and literate was something that drew attention. This indeed happened when the young girl followed Lily to the Valentino castle. Therefore, Lily often had to personally take Charlotte to the library so she could read. Rumors about the mending relationship between the Duke and Duchess spread everywhere. They talked about how the Duke had given the Duchess a blue opal necklace. The girls in the tea house couldn't stop gossiping about how Theodore had spent a large amount of money to buy it. Suddenly, one girl voiced that she thought Lady Adeline was the one who truly deserved to be the owner of that necklace. The girl, without thinking, went up to Adeline, who was present in the tea house, and asked if she had heard about the necklace. Adeline laughed loudly and replied that although she and Theodore had been close friends since childhood, how could she know what was happening between a married couple? Coincidentally, the crown prince and princess of the Francis kingdom were also present, eavesdropping on the conversation. Crown Prince Bridal, amused, said that he would invite the Duke and Duchess to this year's hunting event. Bridal laughed loudly. This was the first time the Valentino couple would attend the hunting festival together. He asked everyone, "Isn't this wonderful news?" It was indeed a reason to celebrate, as their relationship had shown signs of improvement. Adeline thought she would soon visit Veronese to see for herself if these rumors were true. Theodore's temporary memory loss was kept a secret. Lily felt that the biggest issue was the change in Theodore's attitude, making others believe that their relationship had been mended. Lily felt uncomfortable when Theodore called her name more affectionately, and it seemed he wanted her to do the same. Initially, Theodore didn't try to get close to Lily after she got injured. She thought he had finally given up. But the truth was, Theodore hadn't given up, he was just holding back. Lily discovered that Theodore was secretly lingering near her, suddenly sending numerous flowers and gifts. Yesterday he lost his composure and approached her once more. Theodore told her about the crown prince's hunting invitation. Lily agreed, all for the sake of their public image. She had once considered whether she should reconcile with Theodore, but then she felt foolish. How could she deny the past? Nothing could change unless it was faced head-on. Thus, Lily believed that this kind-hearted man was just a dream. Theodore said he would try to win the prize for her. Lily once yearned for such kindness but now did not want it. Lily couldn't accept that everything she had endured was being exchanged for such an illusory dream. Seeing the eagerness in Theodore's eyes for the upcoming trip, Lily chose to be straightforward, telling him she agreed only because she was the Duchess. The truth was, she didn't expect anything from Theodore. Her voice grew louder as she asked how she could trust him again. He had turned his back when she needed help the most and stood by watching her suffer under Owen's torment. Just like she had once said, it was impossible to mend what had been broken. Lily ran out of the room, her mind filled with Theodore's past cold words and the mockery from those around her. How could she forget all of that? The way Theodore had left her alone at the party, abandoning her amidst a crowd of vile people, their eyes tearing her apart. It was as if they were just waiting for a chance to marry her. Lily wondered, even so, did she not have the right to resent him? Theodore chased after Lily, holding her and continuously apologizing. Lily angrily pushed him away. He didn't remember anything that had happened between them. That was something Lily could not accept. She didn't understand why he had changed so much just because he lost his memory. Theodore looked into Lily's eyes and said there must be some misunderstanding between them. He promised to find the problem and solve everything. Lily found this utterly ridiculous. Theodore was trying to solve a problem even though he remembered nothing. But to him, losing his memory was an opportunity. The day he had the accident and lost his memory, the first thing he felt from her was love. He didn't know what had prevented him from expressing his feelings. Lily, in pain, didn't want to listen. Theodore had once judged her based on his thoughts without listening to her explanations, treating her like a possession of the Everett family. She had long given up everything and lived like a dead person because she knew that in the future, after divorcing him, she would fall into Lennon's hands again. Lily planned that when the right time came, she would end her life when she had no reason left to continue living. But Charlotte was the only one who pulled her out of that and wanted to find another path with her. Lily looked at Theodore for a long time and asked what would happen if his memories returned before they found the problem. She earnestly pleaded with him to stop this meaningless conversation. Before Lily left, Theodore only had time to express his hope that one day she would fully trust him. After today's events, many servants were dismissed. They were the ones who had spoken ill of Lily. Of course, this was entirely Theodore's doing. Charlotte also brought new news to Lily. Perhaps Hasson was plotting something. Someone had witnessed him trading weapons. As for Owen, it seemed another wizard had joined his side. From what Charlotte had gathered, the timing of this wizard joining coincided with the Duke's accident. Lily wasn't very surprised. It was strange that a minor head injury could cause memory loss. The Everett family wouldn't sit idly by while the Valentino family regained power. Lily thought she should investigate why Theodore had a head injury. To obtain those records, she needed to meet the commanding knight. Charlotte understood the lady's thoughts and took on this task. Meanwhile, Lily went to meet Adeline because both Seymour and Theodore were not at home. Lily guessed that Adeline had come to verify the rumors. It wasn't hard to see that she had feelings for Theodore. She must have been very disappointed that Theodore wasn't interested. He only saw her as a friend, nothing more than an acquaintance. Lily was curious about the real person behind Adeline's always cheerful facade. As soon as Lily appeared, Adeline noticed the necklace she was wearing. With an unchanged expression, she said she came to visit the lady and even brought tea. Lily complimented the tea, saying it was very fragrant, and thanked her for the gift. Adeline laughed loudly, mentioning that Theodore was a tea enthusiast. She didn't hesitate to say she was eagerly waiting for him to try it and give his feedback. Lily silently laughed, thinking what a subtle way for a woman to show her familiarity with someone else's husband. If Lily weren't someone with great self-control, she would have already lost her temper. This would make her look unreasonable, and Adeline would shed her fake tears. This was how she played the victim and made others seem petty and mean. Of course, Lily wouldn't let her have her way. She began talking about the origin of the tea, pretending not to hear Adeline's provocations. After a while, Adeline couldn't help but ask about the crown prince's hunting invitation. Lily bluntly told her that she and Theodore would be attending. Watching Adeline's expression change at that moment, Jane, the maid, entered to announce a serious matter. Lady Seymour, after returning, immediately interrogated Charlotte about stealing the commander's gold. Lily stood behind the door, observing inside. It seemed Charlotte got involved in this while searching for the night. Lily didn't know the details, but she was sure of two things. Firstly, Charlotte would never steal jewelry. Secondly, among the 5 people present, excluding Lady Seymour, 2 of them were the culprits. Seeing her about to strike Charlotte without any proof made Lily extremely angry. Charlotte was Lily's personal and close maid. If the girl was falsely accused and had to leave the castle, Lily would be completely isolated. Without someone by her side, she wouldn't be able to do anything, and that was exactly what Lady Seymour desired. Over the past year and a half, she had intentionally isolated Lily and had people watch her while pretending to be friendly. She was doing this so subtly that Theodore didn't notice. Before Charlotte was hit, Lily stepped forward and asked Seymour what was going on. She replied that Lily's maid had stolen jewelry but refused to admit it. Lily firmly asked her for proof. Serene, the only witness, stepped forward to recount that she had seen Charlotte enter the commander's room. Lily calmly listened and then noted that Serene was the only witness. How could she be sure Charlotte was the thief? Looking more closely, Charlotte, as her personal maid, had a higher salary than those present, so why would she need to steal? Lily asked Lady Seymour if they had searched the others yet. It seemed that should have been the first thing to do, not waiting until now. Seymour questioned back if that was really necessary. She was curious why Charlotte was in the commander's room in the first place. Lady Seymour was surprised that Lily was standing up to her for the first time. Lily explained that Charlotte was following her orders. There was no way the girl would steal while on a mission from the Duchess. Losing patience, Lily ordered everyone to be searched. They indeed found the jewelry on Serena. The maid Elia pointed directly at Serena and started to scold her. Lily intervened, telling Elia that was enough. She added that unfortunately, selling the commander's jewelry wouldn't be enough to pay off her lover's debts. Lily further asserted that while Serena might have stolen the jewelry, Elia was the one orchestrating everything. She had dragged Serena into this as an accomplice and tried to pin all the blame on Charlotte. Ayla panicked and said she didn't do anything, that it wasn't her. Ignoring her, Lily continued to expose what the maid had done. Seymour, furious, approached Serena and asked if it was true. Trembling, Serena admitted it was. Ayla had ordered her to steal something valuable. Her siblings at home were relying on her, otherwise they would starve. Recently, her youngest sister had pneumonia, but her salary wasn't enough. Serena pleaded with Lady Seymour for forgiveness. However, Seymour's primary concern was whether Ayla's lover was her fiancé. Lily thought to herself that Ayla couldn't possibly tell the truth. Ayla was engaged to a man arranged by Lady Seymour. As the former Duchess's close maid, Seymour had personally arranged her marriage, but unfortunately, Ayla had no feelings for her fiancé. Recently, she had fallen in love with an actor from a traveling theater troupe. If it had only been a fleeting feeling, it might have been better. But she recently discovered she was pregnant with the actor's child. Lily had accidentally overheard Ayla's conversation with the village doctor. With no other options, Ayla had planned to steal money to pay her debts before they both ran away. Upon learning the truth, Seymour angrily ordered the 2 maids to be locked up. She then turned to Lily, saying she was surprised at how much Lily knew about the Valentino household's servants. Lily smiled and responded that as the lady of the house, it was her duty to know. Seymour gave Lily a penetrating look and asked if she had anything else to say. Lily replied that she wanted Seymour to stop causing trouble for her people. This was also a warning. If this happened again, she wouldn't just stand by. Lily emphasized that, as she had said, she knew a lot. Seymour, provoked by Lily's words, slapped her, shocking everyone. Lily had never thought that the truth would worry Seymour so much. Just then, Theodore arrived, furious, and asked what was going on. He rushed to lift Lily's face, filled with concern. He immediately shouted at Seymour, demanding to know why she did it. Theodore firmly stated that nothing could justify her hitting the Duchess. He hoped such incidents would not happen again. She tried to explain, but Theodore refused to listen and took Lily away. The doctor was summoned by Theodore to check on Lily's condition. She mentioned that currently the lady could not use any other medications. She could only use the ones the doctor had prepared. While looking around, Lily saw Theodore's deep concern, which confused her. Why was he using that expression? After everyone had left, Theodore sincerely apologized to her for the trouble. Charlotte stood beside them, anxiously watching. Lily told her to go rest in her room. Then she informed Theodore that Miss Adeline was waiting in the drawing room. Theodore showed no interest as his main concern was Lily's health. Once the lady had rested sufficiently, Charlotte recounted what had happened. Charlotte had waited in the commander's room. After 10 minutes, she left because the commander had not returned. Lily realized the issue. The commander had to urgently meet Theodore as soon as he returned. Therefore, when he met Charlotte, he asked her to wait in his room. However, it took longer than expected, and during that time, the theft occurred. Serena and Ayla must have stolen the jewelry after Charlotte left the room. They then planned to frame her. By the time the commander returned, everything had already happened. If Jinna hadn't run to inform Theodore, Charlotte would have been punished. Seymour had intended to punish Charlotte without any evidence. Reflecting on this still made Lily extremely angry. In contrast, Charlotte was very happy that someone cared about her. She decided to go to the garden and pick the most beautiful flowers for the lady. Later, Lily had a meeting with the commanding knight to inquire about the day Theodore had the accident. According to him, nothing unusual happened. However, there were many magical beasts that had escaped from the rift that day. Subsequently, a strange atmosphere enveloped the Valentino castle. Rumors spread throughout the castle about Lady Seymour slapping the Duchess and Theodore being very angry about it. Lily was certain someone had been secretly watching them. Afterward, Elia was expelled from the castle, and Serena was detained. Perhaps due to Serena's difficult circumstances, Theodore was lenient with her. Not long after, the day of the Crown Prince's hunting festival arrived. Charlotte prepared new attire for Lily. During this time, Lily found the recent events quite amusing. Once Theodore returned to his true self, their attitudes would change, and they would act as if nothing had happened. Of course, Lily didn't believe Theodore's kindness could last. Everything made her feel so tired. As Lily and Charlotte went out to the carriage, they found Theodore waiting there. He looked intently at the wound on Lily's face, relieved that it hadn't left a scar. He then carefully helped her into the carriage. Today, Theodore had purposely switched to a smoother carriage to make it easier for Lily to travel. Once inside, Theodore chose the seat beside her. He said that being close was the best way to protect her. The journey to Ashridge Forest ended. As they stepped out of the carriage together, murmurs arose around them. Lily silently cursed those damned rumors. They hadn't even arrived when they heard the Crown Prince's voice eagerly talking about finding this year's festival winner. When their eyes met, Bridal happily approached. He was very proud to see them together. Bridal sighed, noting that the Duchess looked paler than the last time they met. He told her she should take better care of herself. Lily recalled that the last time she saw him was in the winter of the previous year. Each region had its own characteristics, but in the Kingdom of Francis, the summer was not too hot, and the winter was very cold. The Crown Prince had visited Valentino Castle after finishing a cold march. Bridal wanted to hunt the white-furred foxes that lived in the northern forest. He said he wanted to gift the fur to the princess but couldn't catch any. In the end, Theodore caught 6 and gave him 3. Bridal asked Lily if she could ride today. If not, she could rest inside. Lily smiled and thanked the Crown Prince, saying she was fine. Before the hunt began, Theodore placed a stone around Lily's neck. He said he had imbued it with his spiritual power. It would protect her in case of an emergency. The people around them seized the opportunity to gossip, affirming that the rumors were true. Lily felt extremely uncomfortable being the center of gossip. Among them, she was sure there were those betting on when she would get divorced. What a disgusting pastime, wagering on someone else's happiness. Her 2 brothers, coincidentally, were also present today. Charlotte quietly pointed out Lord Owen's new wizard. Lily had a bad feeling about this. Owen noticed them and approached to strike up a conversation. Theodore, out of habit, moved Lily behind him protectively. Without preamble, Owen looked at Theodore and remarked that he must like the gift. Knowing Lily was curious, Theodore whispered in her ear that he would tell her when they returned. Meanwhile, the crown prince displayed today's prize for everyone to admire. He announced the official start of the hunting festival. Before leaving, Theodore, still concerned, lingered to remind Lily to be careful, even with a knight accompanying her. He also insisted she not remove the brooch he had prepared for her. The women mounted their horses and headed in a different direction. Adeline rode beside Lily and asked who she thought would win today. She guessed it would be Theodore. Lily calmly responded that she also believed her husband would win. Adeline laughed awkwardly. The blonde girl beside them, who didn't understand the situation, spoke up. Of course the Duchess of Valentino would support her husband. Why ask such an obvious question, Adeline? Lily silently laughed at how ignorance could sometimes be surprisingly beneficial. Not long into their ride, Lily found herself followed by numerous insects. This was why she always disliked venturing into the forest for hunts. Queen Elemal noticed and offered her a bottle of insect repellent spray. She said that if Lily didn't mind the scent, she should spray it on herself to keep the bugs away. Queen Elemal, despite her outwardly kind appearance, was a truly fearsome person. She was always generous to the weak and harmless under her protection but ruthless towards those with ill intentions. Conveniently, the type of person she was wary of was Adeline. Lily guessed the queen had seen through whatever Adeline was hiding behind her mask. Elemal looked closely at Lily and asked if she was all right, noting that she looked much paler than before. Lily softly reassured her not to worry, saying she was fine. At that moment, Lily wasn't focused on the conversation with the queen. She sensed that something was wrong. While everyone else around her was still cheerful, only Lily seemed to feel it. She wondered if there was something suspicious about Owen's wizard. Even Adeline noticed Lily's unease and asked if she was all right. Lily casually asked if she could feel something unusual. At that moment, the guides announced they couldn't proceed further because a rift had appeared. Everyone panicked, as this was not a usual location for rifts to appear. Adeline, now suspicious, asked Lily how she knew about the rift. Lily explained that she could feel the space twisting. Monsters began to crawl out of the rift, and people scattered in panic, calling for help. The person holding the signal flare tried to alert the crown prince for reinforcements, but the flare had been disabled. Adeline stepped forward, saying she would use magic to hold them back and urged everyone to retreat. Lily thought that the only force capable of defeating these monsters was spiritual power. While energy could be weakened or used to kill monsters, the core issue required the power of the soul. This is why every territory needed at least one soul contract. However, the Albanese family, with their lineage of wizards, couldn't create a soul contract from their own descendants. Therefore, they adopted children with the ability to perceive souls from other families or selected students from the capital. Becoming the official daughter of the Albanese family meant that Adeline could use magic. However, facing monsters with just energy was very challenging. Everyone watched Adeline anxiously. The color of the energy changed based on the type of magic, and the red energy swirling around Adeline was attack magic. However, Lily noticed that the concentration of her magic was too weak compared to the monsters. The stone around Lily's neck activated, emitting energy that protected her and those around her. This was Theodore's power. Just as Lily had suspected, these monsters feared pure spiritual power the most. But relying on the stone's energy alone wouldn't last long. They needed reinforcements before the spiritual power from the stone was exhausted. Princess Eloise asked Lily how long she could maintain this. Lily didn't know, only hoping it would last until help arrived. She began to sense energy from the forest, seemingly benign. Moreover, it felt as though it wanted to assist her. Lily wondered if this could be the energy of Ashridge Forest. It was said that all things in nature, especially ancient forests, become homes to countless wood spirits. These form a community and become the soul of the forest. However, souls don't communicate in human language. Lily found it perplexing since someone born without the ability to perceive like her shouldn't be able to communicate with them. Yet, she heard the spirits' voices offering to help her. Unsure of what was happening, she asked them to lend her their strength to save everyone. Just as the monsters were cleared out, Lily fainted. During this time, she heard the spirits talking. They could feel her energy, a power beyond imagination. This child's power existed even before she met Theodore. When Lily regained consciousness, she saw Theodore's worried face beside her. However, she was more concerned about whether everyone else was safe. The incident had resulted in casualties from each family. A memorial ceremony was to be held, and Lily wanted to attend. Remembering those who sacrificed themselves to fight monsters was of great importance to both the commoners and the nobility. They believed that if those souls were not properly honored, they would become malevolent. Despite this, mourning those who had died protecting others was certainly necessary. During the ceremony, Owen approached Lily and asked how she was feeling. Lily replied that she was fine and thanked her brother for his concern. She guessed the wizard accompanying him wasn't attending the memorial. Owen expressed his desire to speak with Lily privately. Theodore refused, saying if there was anything to discuss, it should be done here. Owen was surprised, asking if he couldn't talk to his sister alone. Theodore coldly told him to ask Hasson why. Theodore was perhaps the most surprised when Lily took the initiative to let go of his hand and follow her brother. She told him not to worry. Watching their figures walk away, a fleeting image crossed Theodore's mind of when he had once left Lily behind like that. Owen led her to a secluded spot and said it was almost time for Lily to get a divorce. Indeed, Lily wondered why Theodore hadn't mentioned it yet. She told Owen that if that was what he wanted, it could be arranged later. For the past year and a half, she had nothing but the title of Duchess of Valentino. She couldn't provide the information Owen wanted and couldn't make Theodore love her. Lily guessed Owen had considered other benefits regarding her, such as selling her to Leicester in exchange for a portion of territory and troops. Owen voiced his surprise at her ability to sense souls, or rather that she had developed it. Owen cryptically analyzed that those close to the person who made a soul contract might develop the ability to sense souls, though it was very rare. This indicated that the contract holder might have genuine feelings for the other person. Playing with a strand of Lily's hair, Owen whispered that it seemed Theodore truly had feelings for her. Lily smiled and responded defiantly that it didn't mean anything. Owen had already noticed Theodore's approach and purposely let him overhear their conversation. He smiled and asked the Duke what he thought of those words. Once again, Theodore pulled Lily behind him without answering. He said that if their conversation was over, he would take Lily back, as the Queen was looking for her. Owen scoffed, remarking how unexpected it was that a useless child could one day save the royal family. Seeing Theodore about to argue with Owen, Lily quickly pulled him away. She told him not to fight over trivial matters with Owen, especially during these times. Theodore, suppressing his anger, said that bastard insulted her. He noticed that Lily seemed very accustomed to these situations. Looking at her sincerely, he asked if she was all right. Lily thought that normally he wouldn't care about such things. She wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. Hand in hand, they re-entered the ceremony under the watchful eyes of everyone. In that moment, she suddenly realized that the wall between them had disappeared without her noticing. The Queen was delighted to see Lily again, having been very worried when she fainted. Elamel teased that an old woman's worry could never compare to what her husband must have felt. Lily smiled and respectfully replied to the Queen that she was fine. Elamel was pleased to hear this but noted that Lily still didn't look entirely well, so she would get straight to the point. Although they hadn't found a winner for the hunt, one person had made a significant contribution, and that was Lily. Thus, the Queen decided to award her a coral bracelet. Elamel thanked the Duchess of Theodore for saving her and the others. Duke Norbert, Adeline's father, emerged from the crowd and asked how the Duchess of Valentino could communicate with the forest spirits. He was quite surprised to learn that the Duchess had no innate ability to sense spirits. The crowd began to gossip again, and even Lily didn't know how to respond. Theodore addressed the crowd, explaining that as someone who had made a pact with a deity, he would clarify things on his wife's behalf. It was common to see that those close to someone with a divine pact would develop the ability to sense spirits. He speculated that his wife might be one such case. Of course, developing such an ability was not easy. Theodore continued, saying that perhaps his deep feelings for his wife had enabled her to develop this ability. The Queen laughed heartily, agreeing that Theodore was right, and noted that she could see how close they were. She requested a private meeting with Theodore to discuss matters, so Lily returned to bed early. Lying in bed, she sighed with relief that the day was finally over. It had been exhausting. Lily was glad that her brothers hadn't caused trouble, although Hasson had stared at her as if he wanted to devour her. She wondered why he behaved that way and noted that Adeline's attitude toward her seemed to have changed as well. She then told herself to forget about it since it was none of her concern. Since Theodore had to discuss matters with the Queen, they could only return the next day. A place to return to was often called home, but Lily felt she had no such place. Having had a nightmare, Lily got out of bed to make some tea when Theodore returned earlier than expected. Theodore held his head and said he intended to go outside to clear his mind a bit. He apologized for letting her see him in this state, explaining that he couldn't easily sleep tonight. His mind was filled with images of those who suffered today. Lily responded by saying he didn't need to say anything more, but she wanted to know what gift her brother had given Theodore. He told her it was nothing important, just a strange painting. He had it examined but found no dangerous spells on it. Lily wondered what Owen was up to, knowing he never did anything without a reason. Theodore remembered that Owen had also sent a bottle of strong liquor, which he had discarded. Lily continued to ask if he remembered anything about Hasson and Owen. By now, Theodore had lost quite a bit of memory, or at least anything related to Lily. Theodore, holding his forehead, said he knew they were Lily's brothers and that they were cruel, unlike her. Lily calmly remarked that she was also an Everett, so she wasn't any different. She went to the table, took the box containing the coral bracelet, and handed it to Theodore. It had powerful healing magic, helping its wearer recover from any wound. Of course, it couldn't cure his amnesia, but Lily said she didn't know what to do with it and thought it would be better for him to have it. Theodore refused, saying he could take care of himself and wanted her to keep the bracelet. Not wanting to argue, Lily put the bracelet on Theodore's wrist herself. He looked at the bracelet and smiled foolishly. Lily left the bed to let Theodore rest, but he grabbed her hand and quietly asked her not to go. Lily forced herself not to get caught up in these emotions. If she had to choose someone to trust and hope in, it couldn't be Theodore. Honestly, Lily often questioned the meaning of continuing a life like this and frequently felt like giving up on everything. But if she had a choice to avoid facing a terrible future, she wanted to take the risk and embrace it. The next day, according to their schedule, they returned to Valentino Palace. The first thing she did was examine the mysterious painting. She had a wizard inspect it, but he said there was nothing to worry about. However, while everyone else saw the painting as just an ordinary seascape, Theodore saw it as an unsettling bright red. Lily wondered if the painting might be connected to Theodore's memory loss. She could only conclude that Owen might be behind Theodore's amnesia. Lily also found the rift in Ashridge Forest very suspicious, as if someone had intentionally caused it. The most likely suspect was the wizard accompanying Owen, who might have created the rift. Lily feared that the Everett family was behind the series of tragedies that befell the Valentino family. Overwhelmed by uncontrollable emotions and the breaking down of her defenses, Lily understood that she didn't want to go through that again. When she saw Theodore approaching, she quickly avoided him. She pleaded with him not to come closer. Theodore explained that he was only coming to get her because it was about to rain and she shouldn't be afraid. Lily wondered if Theodore even knew what he was saying. She thought of his gentle and loving voice, his tender hands cherishing what was precious, all she needed and desired. Lily remembered telling her mother as a child that her favorite color was blue. Her mother had promised to give her a beautiful blue dress. Of course, that promise was never fulfilled. After the Duke adopted her, her mother disappeared with a large sum of money. Lily had tried to bury her memories of the color blue to avoid thinking about her mother, but now, looking into Theodore's worried blue eyes, she couldn't help but remember. She asked Theodore if he truly cared about her. Theodore expressed all his feelings, letting her know how much she meant to him. When he woke up after his injury and saw Lily for the first time, he had always thought of her with deep longing. Lily wanted to ask why he had misunderstood her, but that was a question Theodore couldn't answer at the moment. She felt frustrated, upset about the misunderstanding and the hatred he had directed at her. Theodore had never looked her in the eyes and always assumed she was no different from the vile Everett family. The anger inside her, combined with the warmth of Theodore's current demeanor, made her pain even more intense. She wished they could have met under normal circumstances. Theodore draped a scarf over Lily's head. At this moment, he couldn't apologize for the past. That was why he hid his vulnerability whenever he stood before her. However, now he wanted to face it and uncover the truth. What misunderstandings were there in his lost memories? Why did he avoid her and ignore his own feelings? Lily wanted to know what would happen if it wasn't a misunderstanding. She confessed that she had always thought she was different from her brothers and father. Despite bearing the Everett name, she was just an adopted child. But she realized she was mistaken, having learned from her father and grown up with her brothers. Lily admitted that she was no different from them because she was raised in that place of evil. She told Theodore to think carefully. Was she truly the person he felt affection for, or just an idealized version he had imagined? Theodore secretly had someone investigate the Everett family. Carmen informed him that it seemed the lord of the Everett family was indeed going through a rough time. Hasson harbored an inexplicable inferiority complex toward Owen. Rumor had it that Owen was a control freak with a sick obsession with possession. Theodore thought it was unwise to provoke someone like him carelessly, as it might backfire. Shifting his thoughts, he told Carmen that his aunt often went out during the time right after he married Lily. He wanted Carmen to investigate this, to find out where she went, who she met, and what she did. Carmen asked Theodore why he was ordering an investigation into Seymour's past actions. Theodore did not hide his suspicions, stating that the person he suspected most was his aunt. She was skilled at causing divisions among people, ever since he was a child and his parents were still alive. He told Carmen to think carefully. That woman wanted to become the Duchess, but someone else had taken her place. Seymour was the second daughter of a baron who came to Valentino Castle with her elder sister. She had dedicated over 20 years to the Valentino family, allegedly out of great love for her sister, even treating her sister's son as her own. Theodore asked if that was all. He knew well that Seymour was cautious and loved her sister, but also jealous. After a long pause, Theodore told Carmen to forget about it and go on with his tasks. There were many things he wanted to discuss with Carmen, but it was concerning. Theodore wondered if his aunt was indeed the mastermind. Why hadn't he suspected her before losing his memory? Looking at a picture of his brother, Theodore asked what his brother would do, as he could no longer find the answer himself. Some vague images flashed in Theodore's mind, causing him to clutch his head in pain. He didn't know what had happened but couldn't see it clearly. When Lily returned, she saw Theodore holding his head in pain. She quickly approached and asked if he was all right. For a moment, she caught a cold expression on his face, reminiscent of the time when Theodore was cold to her. Lily clearly remembered that icy look and voice. She was certain that the present Theodore was the same person from her memories. Theodore was fearful, wondering if the moment he had dreaded had finally come despite their efforts. He called her name, and when she calmed down, she saw his worried eyes. She pretended everything was fine and asked why he had come from the portrait room. He didn't hide it from her and explained that there were some things he needed to see. Together, they returned to their room. Suddenly, Theodore asked Lily why she didn't paint portraits. He had seen her paintings of landscapes and objects. Lily asked in return if he had been in her room. Although their marriage was one of convenience, why had he entered without permission? Theodore admitted his fault, with nothing to deny. That same day, Dr. Soff had found many good herbs to treat Lily's illness. But when she returned, the Duchess's medical records had been stolen. Theodore was furious upon hearing the news and asked if the room had been guarded carefully. At first glance, the clinic looked like it had been burgled, but money and valuable items were untouched. It seemed their target from the beginning was the Duchess's medical records. Theodore deduced that the intruder was likely someone from within and ordered an investigation. Lady Seymour's maid arrived just in time to inform Theodore that she wanted to see him. Theodore, thinking of something, asked Dr. Soff to accompany him. To his surprise, Lily was already in Lady Seymour's room. Seeing that Theodore had brought the doctor and was waiting outside, Lady Seymour decided to get straight to the point. She asked why he had hidden the fact that Lily was infertile. Seeing Theodore's angry expression, she admitted to stealing the medical records. Theodore, adjusting his emotions, said it was not certain that his wife was infertile. Seymour, angry, asked what he was thinking. Had he forgotten his responsibility to the family? She emphasized that Lily was a child of the Everett family. If she was truly infertile, he shouldn't protect her the way he was doing. Theodore, looking directly into her eyes, said she was right. But he would not abandon his responsibilities as the head of the family. Infertility was a definitive reason for divorce in noble society. No flaw was more damaging than the inability to produce an heir. However, when Lady Seymour mentioned infertility, the first thing that came to Lily's mind was that she truly didn't care. There was nothing good about bringing a child into such a torturous life. That was why, Even if Theodore reverted to his old self, she wouldn't care. But now, Lily was puzzled by Theodore's determination to protect her. Seymour, furious, said she never thought she would hear such words from him, defending an Everett family child who might be infertile. Theodore replied that he understood her concerns but reminded her that she had acted impulsively in the past. He brought up the incident where she punished the Duchess's maid publicly and insulted her. With a dark tone, Theodore asked if that was in line with the values of the Valentino family. Seymour asked how he could deny her years of dedication to the Valentino family. She pointed out that he was the one who initially suspected the Everett family. As before, she started to mention the deaths of Theodore's parents and brother. Enraged, he asked if she was now justifying her actions with his brother's death. Seeing Theodore about to leave, she shouted loudly, saying she was acting on behalf of his mother, which was truly shameful. Theodore cut her off, asking if it was because he was the head of the family. He emphasized that he knew what to do with his own family. Once again, Theodore looked deeply into her eyes, stating that the reason she stayed at Valentino had nothing to do with his mother's will. Indeed, Seymour did not like Lily. To her, Lily was an outsider to the Valentino family, but she had gradually felt threatened by her. The Valentino family was a precious treasure she had nurtured for a long time. Currently, Seymour was almost the de facto head of the Valentino family. Even other dukes had to bow to her as an elder. She had endured a lot to reach this position, and she was determined to protect it at all costs. Theodore took Lily back to their room, with Dr. Soff accompanying them. She assured them not to worry, as there were magical tools that could determine if Lily was infertile. Theodore agreed to proceed with that, thanking her for handling the trouble today. After the doctor left, Lily asked Theodore if he would still protect her if she were infertile. He replied that regardless of the situation, protecting her was his duty. Before returning to his work, Theodore apologized for the unpleasant experience she had endured. What Lily was most concerned about now was whether Theodore would regain his previous memories, and if he did, would he still remember this time they had shared? Before she could dwell on it too much, Theodore, knowing her love for painting, invited a famous artist the next day. Funes, who used the pseudonym George Rayner as an artist, was a renowned painter with over 20 years of experience and was someone whose style Lily greatly admired. She wondered if Theodore knew this when he invited her. Funes reviewed Lily's paintings and was very polite in her comments. What made it more interesting was that Funes was someone Lily had long admired. Their conversation turned into a lecture, with Funes willingly sharing her knowledge. Even after Funes left, Lily still had many things she wanted to discuss. Seeing Lily's disappointed expression, Funes asked if it would be all right if she came back in 3 days. Lily told her she would be disappointed if their conversation ended here, and that she wanted to have a longer talk. Funes smiled warmly and said that perhaps the two of them could become good friends. As Funes left, Lily turned to Theodore, who was standing nearby, and asked how he knew she admired Funes. Naturally, he wouldn't reveal that he had bribed Charlotte to find out. Instead, he mysteriously said he had discovered it after missing out on so many things. Theodore then took Lily to see a gift he had prepared for her. A gallery room appeared before her eyes, leaving Lily astonished. She asked when he had prepared it. In fact, it had been in the works for some time, but Theodore hadn't known how to tell her. He feared making another mistake. Nonetheless, he hoped this room would make Lily happy. He wished for it to be her private space, unbound by the Valentino name. Lily had often wondered how many people would give her a sincere gift. Living with the Everett name, all the gifts she received were purely formal. Memories of the past had faded like an old painting. She remembered that her mother had once given her a ragged doll, and Charlotte had brought flowers with affection. Now, a similar feeling washed over her with the gift Theodore was presenting. She had never thought this day would come. Theodore was looking at her without hesitation, just as she had always hoped since she was a child. Amidst countless nightmares, she had wished for someone to reach out and save her. Now Theodore was extending his hand toward her, like the countless deities she had wished for. He took out a coin, saying it was a memento of his brother. His brother had taught Theodore how to predict the future with a coin. The result of flipping the coin would be influenced by luck, which in turn depended on God. As Theodore flipped the coin, Lily wondered if the upcoming decision would make her regret it. The result they received was no. Theodore caught the coin in his hand. He said that if his brother were still alive, he would surely scold him harshly for treating Lily so cruelly. His brother was a gentle and kind person, respected by everyone. No one could doubt his leadership abilities. But Theodore was someone quick to anger and sensitive. He felt that his brother's disappearance had left a void he couldn't fill. Theodore admitted that this was something he needed to take responsibility for, along with the past he had forgotten. He knew well that Lily hated and resented him. Despite feeling ashamed, he asked Lily if she could give him a chance to make amends, so she wouldn't have to endure any more and could look forward to the future. Lily gradually felt the discomfort in her heart begin to fade. This time she chose to trust Theodore once more. Meanwhile, at a nearby church, there was a meeting between Adeline and Seymour. Seymour started by talking about what she had heard at the hunting festival. She never expected there to be a rift in Ashridge Forest. Worried, she asked Adeline if she was hurt. Adeline had to admit that thanks to Lily, everyone was saved from danger. She added, emphasizing that it was more accurate to say it was thanks to Theodore's spirit. The fact that Lily could use Theodore's spirit was very strange. Adeline continued, mentioning the rumor that the two of them were getting along well, which she couldn't believe. Even now, she didn't understand why Theodore cared so much for Lily. Speaking of Lily saving her maid, Adeline asked Seymour if she thought Lily was very compassionate. Seymour replied that it was probably because her mother was also a maid, so she had a sense of empathy. Honestly, when Adeline first saw Lily, she felt she was like a fragile flower that could fall at any moment, as if a slight touch would make her disappear. But looking deeper, Lily seemed to be desperately defending herself. Seymour added that this was why she found Lily cunning and malicious. She guessed that since Adeline was Theodore's childhood friend, she surely wouldn't want to see him with a lowly maid. Adeline confirmed cheerfully, saying that if it wasn't her, then who else? Young ladies of this era were always educated in sewing, dancing, and social skills as they grew up. Once they went through this process, they could be valued a bit more in the marriage market. However, Adeline didn't mind being seen as a commodity. She felt that these things didn't matter much anyway. The Albanese family was a respectable family with a lineage of wizards spanning many generations, but they didn't possess any power greater than spiritual power, so Adeline decided to accept her fate. One day, a chance encounter changed her life. She met a woman who always taught her about magic. This woman had a grand goal. In an era where magic had lost its value, she wanted to prove that magic was still useful and increase its worth. She told Adeline about countries across the Great Sea where magic was more advanced than spiritual power. She said that one day she would go there to study the things they were interested in. At that time, Adeline also nurtured a spark, waiting for it to ignite. But in the end, the woman gave up the opportunity to move to another country and stayed in the kingdom because of love. Adeline skeptically asked what happened to the goal of proving the effectiveness of magic and the ambition of enjoying freedom. Adeline couldn't understand what was so wonderful about this damn love that it could ruin her goal. After the woman left, everything became worse. Adeline admitted that she didn't have the talent to nurture the spark. From that day, Adeline stopped practicing magic. She lived a boring life with nothing to prove or achieve, so she decided not to seek reasons for her emptiness anymore. It was during this time that Adeline met Theodore. In her memories, Theodore was often rude, unnecessarily emotional, and even thoughtless. They occasionally argued, but Adeline grew fond of him. Returning to the present, Adeline thought that this time she wouldn't miss out. Thus, a new plan was prepared by Adeline and Lady Seymour.